Chapter 211. This young man must be the skilled healer you mentioned, Mr. Rhys. Right. From what happened today, you do live up to your reputation, Roderick said. I only hope you won't take it too hard, Mr. Brooks, Dustin said. Any man wouldn't be able to handle hearing that he'd been cheated on. Speaking of, I should be thanking you, Mr. Rhys. If it wasn't for your sharp eyes, I don't know how long I would have been lied to. Roderick forced a smile. In this case, it was better to rip the bandage off. Although it was a bit humiliating, it still beat getting cheated on repeatedly. Mr. Brooks, forgive me for asking, but could the secret illness you've been suffering from be the same as your wife's? Natasha asked tentatively. Typically speaking, if his wife got it, then Roderick must have caught it too. I probably don't have it. Roderick looked slightly embarrassed. To be honest, because of how busy I have been with work, I haven't slept with my wife for half a year. That's good. You dodged a bullet. Natasha smiled. Mr. Rhys, can you tell what disease I have? Roderick went straight to the point. Mr. Brooks, have you been experiencing back and knee pain, mood swings, and insomnia? Dustin suddenly asked. How did you know? Roderick raised his eyebrows in surprise. Of course, I observed it. Dustin smiled slightly. Not only do I know that your body is weak and sickly, but I also know about the hidden injury at your lower back. If my guess isn't wrong, you injured your lower back a few years ago, right? The moment Roderick heard those words, his face instantly grew solemn. The way he looked at Dustin also changed. Indeed, he had gotten hurt a few years ago. That time, he'd been on his way to a meeting to discuss a business deal when a hitman suddenly appeared, stabbing him in the lower back. Fortunately, he didn't lose his life, but ever since then, his injury had been causing him pain. The problem was that he'd never told anyone about this, so how did Dustin find out? Mr. Rhys, you're really amazing. But how could you tell? Roderick was both shocked and suspicious. I'm a doctor. For most ailments, you can identify clues from the smallest details. For example, you were walking in a stiff manner earlier, putting less pressure on your left foot compared to the right. Evidently, you have a lower back injury. Dustin replied. Ha ha ha. You're truly a miracle doctor, Mr. Rhys. I acknowledge your talent. Roderick said. What a compliment, Mr. Brooks. I'm just using my wits. Mr. Rhys, could you take a good look and see whether this illness of mine can be cured? Roderick extended his wrist. Dustin felt for his pulse. Then, he responded, it's curable, but it will take some time. That knife injured your kidney, which has affected your ability to have children. Your reproductive ability has also greatly deteriorated. This is also why you still haven't had children until now. When he said that, Natasha and Roderick paused, clearly taken aback. Mr. Rhys, are you sure you didn't make a mistake? Roderick frowned. That's right, Dustin. Mr. Brooks has a 4-year-old son, Natasha added. The reason why Roderick had doted on Chloe so much was because she'd borne him a son. Being able to have a son as a middle-aged man, he naturally had a lot of love and care for both mother and child. This time, it was Dustin's turn to be confused. He reached for Roderick's wrist again and said with certainty, it's impossible. Your knife injury happened at least 6 years ago. The knife went all the way in, so there is no way you are fertile, unless. Unless what? Roderick found himself asking. Unless your son isn't biologically yours. Roderick was speechless. Chapter 212. Roderick stood there frozen, his face was pale. He'd experienced all kinds of hardships all his life, but at that moment, he didn't know what to do. He thought it was bad enough that he'd gotten cheated on. He didn't expect that there'd be a bigger surprise that followed. His son wasn't actually biologically his. This revelation was even more severe than finding out he was being cheated on. Mr. Rhys, are you sure? Roderick's eye twitched. He was clinging to the very last glimmer of hope. Mr. Brooks, it's a hard pill to swallow, but based on your body's current condition, you lost your ability to have children a long time ago. If you don't believe me, you can go get tested yourself, Dustin said firmly. To be honest, he was starting to pity Roderick. Although he was swamped with riches, his wife had an affair, and his son wasn't his. This double whammy would have driven any ordinary person insane. All right. Thank you, Mr. Rhys. There are too many people here. Shall we find another place to talk? Roderick asked, his face completely neutral. Of course. Dustin caught Natasha's eye and immediately agreed. All right. Dan, take Ms. Harmon and Mr. Rhys to the Brooks Manor. I'll be there after a while, Roderick instructed his driver. Dan hummed in response. Then, he led Dustin and Natasha to the Rolls-Royce outside. After the two left, Roderick's expression finally turned gloomy. Whether his son was his or not, he would find out with a paternity test. He could forgive his wife for her affair, but he couldn't handle raising someone else's child. Dustin and Natasha walked around the garden at the Brooks Manor, gazing at the beautiful scenery surrounding them. A few housekeepers trailed behind them, carrying trays of pastries and tea, ready to be called upon any time. After taking a stroll through the garden, they found a cool area to rest their feet. Ms. Harmon, do you think Mr. Brooks can handle this shocking truth? Dustin asked out of the blue. Chloe hadn't done something so demeaning, he actually wouldn't have stuck his nose where it didn't belong. Mr. Brooks has gone through all sorts of trials and tribulations. He should be fine. Of course, that's if you can cure his secret illness. Natasha smiled faintly. For a man, the ability to produce children was very important. As long as Mr. Brooks believes me, Dustin responded. As he spoke, a large shadow suddenly fell over them. It was Roderick. Hello, you two. Sorry for making you wait so long. Roderick wiped the sweat from his forehead, forcing a smile. Mr. Brooks, has the matter been settled? Dustin asked cautiously. Yes, it's settled. Roderick nodded. Thanks to the power of money, the results of the paternity test were out in less than an hour. As Dustin said, his son was indeed not his. When he learned of the outcome, he was furious. He even had the urge to kill. However, after so many years, he had developed some attachments to them. In the end, he let the mother and son live. But from today on, they were not to appear before him ever again. Our fate truly dealt me a rotten hand. All my life, I did only good deeds, so who would have thought that not only would I lose my ability to have children, but I would also end up parting ways with my wife and child. Roderick heaved a long sigh. Chapter 213. Despite running such a huge family business, Roderick didn't even have an heir now. It was truly a tragedy. Mr. Brooks, don't take it too hard. Although the knife injury damaged your fertility, it can actually be treated. Once you're recovered, you can have another son, or even 10. It won't be a problem. Dustin smiled as he attempted to cheer Roderick up. Really? Roderick trembled, his face expectant. In the past 6 months, the main reason he hadn't slept with his wife was because he couldn't get it up. However, because of his dignity as a man, he'd always kept it a secret. So, to hear that he'd be able to rise up again, naturally, he was elated. Mr. Brooks, if I dare to say it, it means I can do it. As Dustin spoke, he took out a tablet and said, "This is Gemophan, which I created. It helps clear up circulatory pathways and heal internal injuries. Give it a try." Okay. Without another word, Roderick took the Gemophan and swallowed it. As soon as the tablet entered his system, it turned into a rush of warmth that spread through his body. Instantly, he felt his mood lift, and his body felt better in a way he couldn't explain. The pain in his lower back had also improved significantly. Amazing, this is amazing. Mr. Rhys, your miracle tablet is extraordinary. After experiencing the fascinating changes in his body, Roderick was practically over the moon. In an instant, he felt as if he'd gotten a brand new body. If he previously had doubts about Dustin's abilities, then now, he was utterly convinced. Any famous doctor was trash in comparison to Dustin. Mr. Rhys, take the Gemophan once every 3 days. After a month, your body will completely recover. Dustin took out a small glass bottle filled with Gemophan and handed it to Roderick. Thank you so much, Mr. Rhys. I'll remember your great kindness for the rest of my life. Feeling emotional, Roderick knelt on the ground. Mr. Brooks, please get up, it was nothing. Dustin quickly helped him to his feet. Since this all happened because of him, now that he was able to cure Roderick's illness, there was at least a good ending. Mr. Rhys, you're too humble. If it weren't for your help, my life would have been over. Roderick said, his face glowing with gratitude. A man who couldn't get it up wasn't a real man. Now that Dustin had given him the chance to regain his dignity as a man, it was as though he'd been given a new lease on life. Mr. Brooks, now that Dustin has cured your illness, how do you plan to repay him? Natasha said, half joking. As his other half, she knew that it was time to ask for remuneration. Name whatever you need, Mr. Rhys. If I can do it, I won't say no. Roderick said, placing his hand on his chest to show how genuine he was. I don't need anything else. All I'm interested in are precious herbs such as heliotropes, chayuja, and flowers of crimson gem. If you have them, Mr. Brooks, I would be nothing but pleased, Dustin said, naming his price. I've never collected precious herbs before, but no worries. I'll send someone to check it out. Once I get any news, I'll buy it for you right away, Mr. Rhys. Roderick promised. Thank you, Mr. Brooks, Dustin said. No. I should be the one thanking you, Mr. Rhys, Roderick said in return. He now had a profound sense of worship for Dustin's impressive abilities. Sir. At that moment, an elderly butler suddenly walked over and reported, Phineas Lacey and his son are here to see you. They say they have something to discuss with you. Phineas Lacey. What is he doing here? Roderick rubbed his chin. It's such a small world. I never expected I'd run into them here. Dustin narrowed his eyes when he heard the names. What? Do you know these people, Mr. Rhys? Roderick pressed. I do, and we even got into a conflict. Without leaving anything out, Dustin quickly recounted the entire story. After Roderick listened to the whole incident, he couldn't help but snort. Those two bastards are truly arrogant bullies. I hate people like this the most. Come with me to see them, Mr. Rhys. Today, I'll give them something to see. Chapter 214. At that moment, Phineas and Matt were in the Brooks Manor living room. Dad, do you think Big Bucks Brooks will lend us money? Moore glanced around, looking worried. Big Bucks Brooks is filthy rich and generous to boot. He's always had a good relationship with our family. It shouldn't be a problem to borrow some money, Phineas said, raising his cup and taking a sip. It was obvious that he was very confident. Although the Lacey family hadn't been restored to its previous glory, they were still above the average person. Outside, they still had some status. If it weren't for our family's capital chain rupture causing our businesses to suffer majorly, we would never have to borrow money from others, Matt said, sighing. Not long ago, they'd suddenly received terrible news. Many of the big shot partners had retracted their investments. All the business deals they'd made previously had gone bust. Their entire family suffered serious damage overnight. Now, they desperately needed a capital injection, or else the Lacey family would go bankrupt in less than a month. At this point, the only one who could help them was Big Bucks Brooks. Speaking of that, it's really strange how all of the investments were retracted collectively, and disaster struck from all sides. I bet somebody's targeting our family, Phineas rubbed his chin in thought. Who's gutsy enough to go mess with our family? Matt slammed his palm into the table. Their original plan was to get the emotional formula in their hands and then use the investment funds to conduct their own research. This way, The Lacey family would be restored to their former glory. However, after everything that had happened, their plan was ruined. We still haven't been able to look into it yet. Once we raise the funds we need and get through these tough times, we'll drag that bastard out. An evil glint flashed through Phineas' eyes. Dad, how much money does our family need to operate normally? Matt asked, uncertainly. At least $3 billion. Phineas put up 3 fingers. That much. Matt's expression drooped. Would Big Bucks Brooks agree to loan us $3 billion in one go? Big Bucks Brooks controls 1/3 of all the cash flow in Millsburg. What are $3 billion to him? Phineas took a sip of tea and said casually, not to mention, I even came here personally. Would he dare to say no? He should be happy that our family is cozying up to him on our own accord instead. That's true. Hearing those words, Matt let out a sigh of relief. The Laney family did have prestige out there. Big Bucks Brooks had to give them some respect. As the two were speaking, the door suddenly opened, and a few people entered. The one in the lead was none other than Roderick. The moment they met, Phineas stood up and extended a hand, his face full of smiles. Hey, Mr. Brooks. Long time no see. You've gotten much more handsome. However, when he saw Dustin behind Roderick, his smile froze on his face. Punk, what are you doing here? You're here, so why can't I be here too? Dustin retorted indifferently. HMPH. And who are you? Can you even be compared to us? Phineas' expression turned cold instantly. Dustin, are you here to also get a loan from Mr. Brooks? Matt said with a suspicious look. Why I'm here doesn't concern you. Dustin's expression remained unchanged. Mr. Brooks, we've always been friendly with each other. Don't lend that punk any money. We have bad blood. Phineas said, calling a spade a spade. In his eyes, Roderick would never go against the Laney family for a small fry. So, he definitely won today. Phineas, are you sure that you have bad blood with Mr. Rhys? Roderick smirked coolly. Of course. Phineas puffed out his chest. Mr. Brooks, to be frank, the 2 grudges I have with him can never be solved, so please don't try to lobby for him. Chapter 215. The emotional formula would definitely be his soon. You're mistaken. I don't mean it that way. Roderick uttered calmly. Huh. Phineas was puzzled. What do you mean, then? Both of you are here to borrow my money, aren't you? Roderick asked back instead of answering. Phineas let out a sheepish laugh. Our family ran into some trouble recently, and we need some money to turn things around. That's why we've come to you, Mr. Brooks. How much do you need? About $3 billion. $3 billion. Roderick raised an eyebrow. Sorry, but no can do. What? Phineas' shock quickly turned to dismay. Mr. Brooks, $3 billion is nothing to you. Why can't you lend us the money? Technically, I've already lent the money to Mr. Rhys, so you'll have to beg him for the money. Roderick replied with a sarcastic smile. What? You lent it to him? The father-son duo was stunned, unable to believe their ears. There was no way Roderick would have lent that useless punk $3 billion. You're not pulling our leg, are you, Mr. Brooks? Phineas asked again, eyes wide. Yeah. What are we supposed to do if you give the money to him? Matt was dismayed. That's none of my business. Roderick responded frankly. Mr. Brooks, how could you lend your money to him instead of us? Considering our friendship, you're carrying it too far. Do you think that Brat is better than the Laney family? The Laney family was a noble family that was leagues above Dustin in terms of wealth and connections. Any normal person would know who to side with. Firstly, we're not friends. Secondly, it's my money. I decide who it goes to. I don't have to ask anyone's opinion. Lastly, who the fuck do you think you are? How dare you compare yourselves to Mr. Rhys? You should really look in a fucking mirror. Roderick snapped scornfully. Mr. Brooks. Are you going to make the Laney family your enemy just because of that brat? Phineas growled. Exactly. You should think this through carefully. Is the Laney family more important or that brat? Matt quipped. They were sure that a businessman like Roderick would never turn his back on the Laney family. So what if we become enemies? A penniless family like yours is trying to threaten me. Ha! You must have a death wish. Roderick curled his lip. I can cut off all your funds right now. I'll make sure you never get a penny in this province at this was by. His words hit the father-son duo like a bucket of ice. They'd been so agitated that they forgot that Bucks Brooks they were talking to, whose influence and wealth exceeded the Laney family a gazillion times. Even when they had been at full power, they still had to lower their heads in front of Roderick, let alone now. Nonetheless, they could never have dreamed that someone as powerful as Roderick would butt heads with their family for someone like Dustin. Did Dustin have connections they weren't aware of? Chapter 216. Mr. Brooks, why on earth are you willing to go against our family for him? Phineas demanded with a threatening glare. He had approached Roderick confidently but never expected this outcome. To tell you the truth, Mr. Rhys is my savior and honored guest. If you have a problem with him, that means you have a problem with me. So, you either beg for his forgiveness, or your family is over. Roderick declared. The aura he exuded was overwhelming. You want us to apologize to that asshole? In your dreams. Matt yelled angrily. Then, get lost. I wonder how long your family can last. Roderick kicked him out. Roderick Brooks, life has its ups and downs, so don't look down on a broke man. You'll regret it one day. Matt forced through gritted teeth and stormed away. Mr. Brooks, you've incurred the wrath of the Laney family. I doubt my family can't borrow merely $3 billion elsewhere. Phineas glared at Roderick before following his son. Arrogant fools. Roderick sneered. No one in the province would dare lend the Laney family money since Roderick already rejected them. Matt and Phineas returned home displeased with the outcome. What's wrong with Roderick Brooks today? He refused to help us because of that brat. Matt seethed. It seems like that kid has some connections. Phineas frowned. As if. He's just a pretty boy who got lucky because of Natasha. I bet Roderick only went against us because of Natasha's support too. Matt was displeased. The Harmon family sure is bothersome. I have a feeling that our financial issues have something to do with them. Phineas pondered. What do we do now, Dad? Should we fight to the death? No. We aren't at the end of our rope yet. Let me make some calls. Phineas pulled out his phone and began asking for help. The Laney family still had some friends and partners, so they'd definitely pull through as long as he managed to raise the funds. Hey, Mr. Smith, it's me. I'm kind of short on cash, so do you think you could help me out? I'll pay you back with interest after the turnover. Hi, Mr. Thompson. This is Phineas Lancey. I'm calling to ask for a labor. Hey, Mr. Johnson. I need your help. Phineas made call after call to any of his friends who were well off. However, his face darkened with each call he made. As soon as they heard that he was trying to borrow money, these people who claimed to be his friends immediately changed their attitudes and came up with all sorts of excuses to refuse, and some even hung up without responding. Phineas finally knew what fair weather friends were like. After all the calls, he still couldn't get any money. Instead, he stirred up more trouble. Chapter 217. How did it go, Dad? Is anyone willing to help us? Matt asked tentatively. Fuck those bastards. They come wagging their tails as soon as they have something they want and call themselves my friends, but the moment they find out that our family is in trouble, they start running away. Those fucking fakes. Phineas' face contorted with rage. He never thought that he, the head of the Laney family, would end up like this. Dad, everyone always says that misfortune shows you those who are not your real friends. Stop hanging out with them from now on. I'll make them regret their choice after we pull through. Matt swore solemnly. Matt, My contacts are useless now. You're the only one I can rely on. Phineas suddenly thought of someone. Aren't you close with Edwin Hummer's daughter? Why don't you ring her up and see if she can lend us some money? Oh, right. I nearly forgot. The daughter of the wealthiest man in Swinton should be able to spare us $3 billion easily. I'll call her now. Matt pulled his phone out and dialed a number. My. If it isn't Mr. Laney. How did you find the time to call me? Someone grumbled over the phone. Don't put it like that, Tina. I've been busy at work recently. I called you the second I got some free time, Matt said with a smile. He was a professional when it came to coaxing women. Humph. At least you remembered to call me. So, why are you actually calling? Tina smiled. Because I miss you so much, of course. Why else? Matt teased. Tyne chuckled mirthlessly. Right. I'm hanging up if you won't tell me the truth. Hold on. I do have a favor to ask you. Matt cleared his throat. My business ran into some financial issues recently, so we need some money to turn things around. Would you like to invest in us? How much do you need? Tina asked back. Not much. About $3 billion. Matt answered with a smile. $3 billion isn't a lot. You're joking, right? Tina's voice went up an octave. To others, it may be a lot. But you're the daughter of the Hummer family, the prettiest and most talented woman in Swinton. $3 billion can't be much for someone like you. Tina was pleased with all the flattery. After all, who didn't like to hear their lover praising them? I don't mind getting you the money, but you have to tell me why. Tina stated. To tell you the truth, someone ruptured our capital chain, and I have a feeling that the Harmon family was the one who did it, Matt answered bluntly. You and the Harmon family had always kept a wide berth. Why would they do something like that to you? Tina asked curiously. Because of Dustin Rhys. Matt briefly explained everything to her. What? You threatened that psychopath? Tina shrieked. That's right. That shameless bastard tried to humiliate our family, so I had to teach him a lesson. I'll destroy his family with your investment. Matt fumed. Are you a fucking idiot? Why would you try to piss that psycho off? Why are you so afraid? He's just a country bumpkin. I'll get rid of him easily. Matt declared confidently. In your dreams, you moron. Don't drag me along your death quest. With that, Tina hung up the phone. Chapter 218. Hello. Matt held his phone by his ear with a dumbfounded expression. All he did was mention Dustin's name. Why did Tina sound so frightened? Matt had no idea that Tina was still traumatized from the time Dustin slapped her. What's worse was that instead of getting her revenge, she had been forced to grovel for Dustin's forgiveness, which was nothing less than an utter embarrassment and a terror for her. Although she was bitter about it, she couldn't lay a hand on Dustin because her family didn't dare seek revenge before her brother returned. Dustin was someone who could defeat a martial arts master like Mr. Milfroy with ease. If someone like him were to go crazy, he could destroy the entire Hummer family in a heartbeat. Because of this, they didn't dare seek revenge, and Tina shook in fear every time someone mentioned Dustin. What did Ms. Hummer say, Matt? Phineas saw his son in a daze and asked. Fuck. That bitch is terrified of Rhys. There's no way she'll lend us money. Matt scowled. The daughter of the Hummer family is scared of that brat. Is it because of the Harmon family? Phineas pondered aloud. Possibly. Matt nodded, thinking hard. He couldn't think of any other reason. This is bothersome, Phineas frowned. Our family is doomed if we don't get any money soon. We might have to beg for that brat's forgiveness. Beg for his forgiveness. Fuck. No. Matt yelled. Why should we lower our heads to someone like him? I'd rather suffer than beg. Don't be rash, Matt. Phineas warned gravely. He has the Harmon family to support him, and now, he has Roderick Brooks' support as well. We'll sink further if you do anything to him. Alas, those words failed to reach Matt, who has lost repeatedly to Dustin recently. Today's incident only fueled his anger, and his hatred toward Dustin peaked. Matt, leave this matter to me. You should take a break for the next 2 days. Just don't get into any trouble. Phineas instructed his son seriously, who didn't reply as he began to plot his revenge. Soon, night fell. Inside Midnight Rose, Dahlia downed shot after shot in a corner. Lyra sat beside her, her face full of worry. This was the first time she saw Dahlia like this. Dahlia refused to return to the company or care about what was going on, completely abandoning her strong woman character and letting herself go. Lyra heard that it was because of Dustin, but was it worth it? Please stop drinking, Ms. Nicholson. Let's go back. Your mother is worried about you. Lyra implored. Leave me alone. I want to keep drinking. All my worries disappear when I'm drunk. Dahlia chuckled humorlessly before chucking another shot down her throat. She didn't know what to do. She was under constant pressure because of her family and had to fight her feelings for Dustin at the same time. Dahlia knew she misunderstood him, but she didn't know how to explain herself. Actually, it'd be more accurate to say that she was terrified of seeing Dustin's heartless expression, so she decided to use alcohol to numb herself. She may be a capable leader in the business world, but when it came to her personal feelings, she realized she was an utter failure. Even though she knew that she had been the one who misunderstood Dustin, her pride wouldn't let her apologize. Instead, she expected Dustin to step forward and request a reconciliation. So this is where you are, Dahlia. Matt entered the bar and spotted the two ladies immediately. Mr. Laney, you're here. Please stop her. Her body can't take it if she drinks so much. Lyra quickly stood up and greeted Matt, whom she called. She felt that Matt was a much better option than Dustin. Please get her some water, Lyra. I'll talk to her, Matt assured with a smile. Thank you, Mr. Laney. Lyra nodded and darted off. Why are you drinking so much, Dahlia? Matt asked with a concerned expression. It's none of your business. Go away. Dahlia's eyes were hazy, but her tone was colder than ever. Matt's smile froze for a second before he recovered himself. Without anyone noticing, he slipped a pill into her wine and smiled. You still want to drink, don't you? Dahlia. Let me join you. He poured another glass for Dahlia. Dahlia, who was already tipsy, didn't notice anything wrong and downed the glass without a word. Soon, her head became heavy and her vision blurred, making her sway. Mr. Laney, I think Ms. Nicholson is drunk. Lyra returned just then. It's all right. I'll send her home now. Her family's worried sick. Matt promised with a kind smile. All right. Thanks, Ms. Laney. Lyra didn't think too much about it and helped carry Dahlia into Matt's car. Since the car only had 2 seats, she could only watch as the car's headlights disappeared. Humph. You're finally in my arms. You like acting high and mighty, don't you? Well, I'll have some fun with you tonight. Matt smiled sinisterly and headed straight to the hotel. Chapter 219. Meanwhile, at Peaceful Medical Center, Dustin was reading a book in silence when a Maybach pulled up at the door. The car door opened, and Phineas came out holding some gills. Mr. Rhys. Phineas entered the building with a smile, no longer carrying the arrogance he had when they first met. Do you need me for something? Dustin glanced at the other man indifferently. Mr. Rhys, I'm really sorry about today's incident. Please forgive us for being so ignorant. Phineas smiled apologetically. He finally understood that there was more than meets the eye when it came to Dustin, who had the support of the Harmon family and the friendship of Big Bucks Brooks. If Phineas wanted to borrow $3 billion, he had to first get Dustin's forgiveness. How could a nobody like me make the Laney family apologize? Dustin replied, unconcerned. What are you talking about, Mr. Rhys? You're young but talented. We admit defeat proudly. Please give us a way out. Phineas bowed his head. However, Dustin didn't respond. Gritting his teeth, Phineas fell to his knees with a thud. Mr. Rhys, Please accept our family's sincere apologies. As long as you give us another chance, you'll be our honored guest forever. I'm willing to offer a third of no, half of our property as an apology. Phineas quickly bowed lower, surprising Dustin. Dustin admired the older man for having the courage to put his pride aside to apologize. What should we do about the death of Caitlin's cat? Dustin asked coldly. We'll pay her back. We get her as many cats as she wants. Phineas frantically vowed. Dusty's dead. It doesn't matter how many cats you get. Caitlin murmured sadly next to Dustin. Did you hear that? I don't mind forgiving you, but you offended Caitlin. Dustin shrugged. I'm so sorry. Ms. Lawler. I swear I won't do it again. Please forgive me this once. I've learned my mistake. Phineas quickly dragged himself to Caitlin without getting up, and he began to apologize. I forgive you on the condition that you never do anything evil again. Caitlin declared gravely. Definitely. I've learned my mistake. Phineas nodded frantically, having no choice but to lower his head toward them. Since Caitlin forgives you, I'll let this matter go. You better remember your promise. All of your properties. Dustin reminded calmly. Of course. As long as the Laney family is able to pull through, they're yours. Phineas dared not object. Dustin hummed. He was about to say something else when his phone started ringing. Dahlia was calling him. Muffled noises could be heard as soon as he picked up. Let me go. I want to go home. Dahlia demanded weakly. What do you mean, go home? Look at how pretty Estelle Hotel is. Let's keep drinking there. Matt cackled. You can go alone. Piss off. Fucking slut. You better appreciate the chance I'm giving you. You don't have a say in this. You're drinking tonight. Get in. As the phone fell to the floor, the cursing became softer until it completely faded away. Dustin's face darkened immediately, and the air around him became unbelievably cold. What's wrong, Mr. Rhys? Phineas shivered. A loud slap rang out as Dustin struck Phineas across the face, causing the latter to fall to the floor. You motherfucker. You better hope your son didn't make a mistake, or I'll destroy your entire family. Dustin opened the door and dashed out. Chapter 220. Huh. Phineas covered his cheek with a hand, dumbfounded. Meanwhile, inside a room in Estelle Hotel, Dahlia was lying strewn across the bed, nearly unconscious, her head heavy and her body weak. Matt stood next to her, grinning wickedly as he admired her voluptuous figure. Dahlia, I have to admit. You sure are a beauty. He's scared. Your looks and figure are perfect. I've fucked countless women, but none were as charming as you. Naturally, I'm the perfect man for you. How dare Dustin Rhys try to claim you as his? But don't worry, you'll be mine after tonight. Sneering, Matt began to unbutton his shirt before remembering something. He pulled out his phone and panned the camera toward Dahlia. I nearly forgot to record our wonderful night. I promised Dustin that I'd send him a video of us making love. Men don't break promises. Matt grinned excitedly. You despicable, shameless bastard. I'll throw you to jail if you touch me. Dahlia seethed feebly. If you don't mind others seeing the video, go ahead. I don't mind. So what if I have to go in for a few years? At least I get to fuck you. Still, there's no need for us to take things that far. You'll just have to marry me after tonight. That way, you'll be able to protect your reputation while having the honor of being fucked by me. Isn't that a great deal? Matt sniggered confidently. In your dreams, fucker. I'd rather die than marry a hypocritical asshole like you. Dahlia tried to get up several times but flopped back to the bed pathetically each time. Soon, her face flushed from the exertion, and the drug was still doing its job. Huh. Matt's expression hardened. Are you still thinking of that loser right now? I don't get it. How is he better than me? Why do you keep thinking of him? He's better than you in every way. You don't even deserve to compete with him. Dahlia fumed. He's a fucking nobody. If someone hadn't supported him, do you think he would have made it to where is he today? That dickhead ruined my plans so many times. I swear I'm going to kill him one day. Matt snarled. I'll kill you if you touch a hair on his head. Darla swore, her expression ferocious. You're still protecting that asshole. I better teach you a lesson. Matt tugged his belt off and began to lash out at Dahlia. You whore. I'll kill you. You better say that I'm the best and that I'm the man you want. Soon, Dahlia's fair skin turned bloody as whip marks littered her body. Still, she kept silent, digging her teeth into her lips stubbornly. Fuck. You're stubborn, eh? I'll fuck you up tonight. Infuriated, Matt yanked his clothes off and lunged toward her. As he was tearing at Dahlia's clothes, the room door flew open with an ear-splitting boom, and a formidable figure stormed in murderously. Instantly, the freezing wind whistled in, and light bulbs exploded.